your hostess for the evening, and I'm a little late tonight. We got a surprise visit from a cat that we thought we lost. So Andre is back. He showed up at my ex's house, so we have been getting him, and I just gave him a feline leukemia shot. Not feline leukemia, distemper. So anyway, and he was good for that. I was surprised. So he's semi-feral, but he was acting all loving and everything despite trying to claw us. So I got away without any scratches, and he is very happy outside. So I am very happy to have him back. So now we have 3 cats and 1 dog, but Andre will have to be outdoor. We'll need to take him in for a rabies shot as soon as we can, but I'm very glad to have him back. And in the meantime, that distemper shot will give him a little immunity until we can get him into the vet. So, very good. Now, let's get started. I am going to check the chat first and see. Oh, we've got Alexia XO, another TV viewer, and Janim. Janin, welcome. Good to see y'all. Glad to have y'all with us tonight. So, tonight I thought, since we've looked at disability and the homeless and disability and incarceration, I thought I would take a look at disability and public school. And I've got some thoughts here that I wrote down last night. I think schools should allow all students K through 12 at least a 30-minute lunch. And I would really think that needs to be an hour. My older daughter had 15 minutes lunch in 5th grade, which I thought was ridiculous. I know because I ate with her on special occasions. Allow students recess twice per school day. I think all high schools should have parks where students can walk, jog, or swing at recess to blow off steam. I think all school systems should integrate mental health care in school. They should have online therapy available during school hours. All school systems should have a no bullying policy on or off campus. This should include colleges and universities. Bullying is abuse. Abuse of any kind should not be tolerated in any government institution. Class sizes should be reduced. Teacher burnout is a sign that classes are too large and paperwork is too much. Reduce homework and reduce teacher workload. So we need to reduce the student workload so students have some free time, and we need to reduce the teacher workload because all of that paperwork is not teaching. They need to let teachers teach. I am echoing what I've read on the Chicago Teachers Union. I subscribe to their tweets, and they talk about this a lot. Do less testing. Research shows standardized tests are biased against ethnic groups. Many students suffer from test anxiety. I sure did. When the NEDT test came around, I was a nervous wreck. It was awful, and we only had it when I was 13 and when I was 14. We didn't have it every year. So you have the situation where you have the tests and you're teaching to help the students pass the test. This is not what school is supposed to be about. Real life has no tests. Unless you've got a profession that you have to take an exam for. Emphasize socialization and working together. Now, I know that you teachers, I know you get students in groups and have them work in teams. This is wonderful, but it's not enough. We need to not tolerate, don't tolerate hate speech, name calling, or making fun of people. Teach students to stand up to this in healthy ways, not to encourage fights, but to sit down and communicate. Have a therapist teach groups about positive communication, healthy ways to communicate. This is one area that our schools really fall down on the job. We need to have partnerships. Make more partnerships between the psychological community, the therapist, and the education community, teachers and administrators. Child psychologists can show teachers more healthy ways to gain class cooperation. Students should have a Bill of Human Rights. Every student deserves a healthy school environment free of bullying, discrimination, and public health threats. If a school cannot provide a safe environment, students should have a choice to attend remotely. Absolutely. If I had had that choice when I was in junior high, I would have taken it in a heartbeat. I would have done anything at home to be free of people bullying me all the time. It just wore me down, and my self esteem was on the floor all the way through junior high. And I got a break from it in high school, but a lot of students are not nowadays. And really, you know, it's not a healthy environment if there is abuse going on. So that's how I feel about it. So let's look at disability and public school. Oh, I had my thing turned off. I'm still getting used to this. Hi, Myros. How are you? Good to see you. Do you have any thoughts on disability and schools? I'm doing pretty good. I'm a little tired. We've been out and about. We went and picked up a cat that we thought was lost. So we're celebrating the return of Andre tonight. And we're keeping him outside until we get him an exam to make sure he hasn't got feline leukemia that our other two can get. Um, but he's very happy to be back, and he's been gone almost a year. Okay, go right ahead. I want to hear what you have to say about it. And while you're typing, I'll go and look up a reference and come back. So let me put this on the screen share so you'll see what I'm looking at. And let's look up, because I know a little bit about what schools were like 25 years ago. I haven't had a child in school for a long time. So let me type in disability and public school. All right. Okay. The Individual with Disabilities Education Act. So let's see. Alrighty. School districts must provide a free, appropriate public education. Let me put this reference over here. And get the title of it. Alrighty. Okay, Andrew M.I. Lee, J.D., wrote it. He's a lawyer. IDEA is the nation's special education law. Schools must find and evaluate students thought to have disabilities at no cost to families. That's good. To qualify for IDEA services, a child must have a disability and need special education to make progress in school. So that's the main ideas. And kids with disabilities must learn side by side with peers as much as possible, something called the least restrictive environment. So, okay. Schools have to give parents a voice in their child's education. So, at every point in the process, IDEA gives parents specific rights and protections. Okay. Also provides early intervention services to infants and toddlers up to age 3, and IDEA may impact some students in private schools. Okay, so let's just do this. And this how to get okay. And I've heard about IEPs. A school team will work with the parents to develop an IEP, which is an individualized education program. Oh, I didn't put the link up. Let me do that. Of course, all this is okay. Hmm. I agree with you. Holding someone back just because they can't learn French is ridiculous. Yeah, algebra. I think that that should be totally optional. I don't think algebra should be required for graduation because 90% of people in their jobs will not use it. So why learn something that is so hard? If I think that kids should be taught to read in their language. They should be taught correct grammar in their language. They should have some exposure to literature, but I don't really agree with the way that literature is taught in schools in the US. I think that algebra should be optional. Yeah, I mean, if a student is interested in the sciences and needs the algebra to do physics, then yes, they should have to take it. But if they're not going that route, they shouldn't have to take it. Well, they need to have individualized education because people are at different levels, even in the normal classes. Um, well, you've got to have some individuality in a student's program. We have the capability to have online classes. So if someone wants to take algebra, they wouldn't necessarily have to have a teacher to teach it at the school. They could do an online class and an online lab. And if they need it for certain classes, then yeah, I mean, there should be some things, some basic things that everybody has to learn. You know, you should be able to handle a checkbook and calculate simple interest. So if you're going to get a loan, then you know if you're being ripped off, right? But um, just basic math is all that a student needs to prepare them. If they need algebra later, they can take it and learn it quickly. So it's not like you're missing an opportunity if you don't have algebra by the time you're 14. So I think that to keep people from dropping out of school, school should be fun. That you can have fun while you're learning. Well, you don't know unless you're exposed to something. Maybe we could go as far as pre-algebra just to expose people to it and see if they like it, but not as a requirement for graduation. Certainly not. I think that as long as people are getting the basics, they can read and write, they can do arithmetic, and they can take some things to enrich their lives, like art and music. You know, these things are important. And sports, if they want to play sports, that's important too. And a lot of people in the community enjoy watching the kids play sports. They need to do it safely, however. But really, we require a lot of things. There used to be a model of education that schools all over the world adhered to, and that was Greek and Latin and scholarly subjects like algebra. And they thought that kids would develop, really bright intelligence by studying hard subjects. It doesn't work that way. And we still have, all these requirements. Now, foreign languages, that is a good thing for people to learn. But I was not very gifted with foreign languages. I never could trill an R, so I couldn't take Spanish. I felt like I would fail out. And so I wanted to take German, but it wasn't offered at my school. I could take it as a college course, but my dad would have to pay $65. And I brought up the subject with him, and he says, $65? No, I'm not going to pay for that. When you get to college, um, ich spreche ein paar Wörter auf Deutsch. Nicht, um, nicht, um, nicht viel. My vocabulary is gone. It's been so many years since I had it. I had 4 quarters. Nicht viel. Yeah, yeah. I had it a long time ago in 1977, 78 and 79, and 80. So it was a year between each quarter of language, which is not the way to take it. If you're going to go to college and take a foreign language, you should take it boom, boom, boom. Das sind sehr viele Jahre her. Ja, ja, ja. Sehr viele Jahre. Ah, yeah, many years ago. and I enjoyed it very much. It's 43 years. Yep. I'm 62. I was 18 when I started taking German. And the reason I wanted to take German is because I have German ancestry and I was doing genealogy at the time. So, hey, it did help me to be able to wade through those records. And there were some documents that were written in the old German script that they used to use until in the 40s. You lived in Switzerland? Wow. So cool. So you speak a different dialect than I learned. I learned the dialect that's spoken in Frankfurt, Germany. So those dialects are almost like separate languages from what I hear. That's neat. Really? They taught us that it mattered a lot. Like the dialect in Munich was very that people from Frankfurt had trouble understanding them in Munich, Bavaria. But I guess it depends on what part of Germany or Switzerland. Cool. That's neat. We one of the extracurricular activities we did in my first German class was we um did a we got together a chorus to sing in German, and my professor had these music books that were um, from Bavaria, and they were published in 1919. And I asked him if I could make copies of one of them, and he said sure. So I photocopied it, and I still have that photocopy. And we sang at Lenox Square in Atlanta. It was fun. It was so much fun. He was very gifted musically. And I don't remember what it's called. It was totally, yeah, it was in Bayerisch, and it was published in 1919, and it was a book of folk songs. But it had songs from all over the place in it. It had Dona Noche, Dona Nobis Pacem, which was in Latin, and it had Musidin, which Elvis made popular, but he changed the music a little bit. And many, many other songs that were beautiful. So it was really neat. We learned the songs that we did in the choral presentation, and it was really fun. So that really made the class come to life for me, having the music. But I wasn't that good a student. I made a B, but I really struggled. I didn't stay in the language lab enough. But it was so cool. My professor would go and spend summers in Germany every summer, take his kids and his family, and um, I loved hearing about they would go to the bakery every morning for fresh bread and stuff that we don't do here. Just really, really neat. And he had a very good accent. people talked about him being really a whiz kid when he was in school, and they hired him on as a German professor, when he got his undergraduate degree. So, really cool. So let's talk about more education stuff. So, you're from Switzerland, so you went to school in Switzerland? Cool. I know the European system is a lot different than ours because my friend from the Netherlands said that it's basically you pick 3 concentrations and you don't take as many subjects as we do here in the US. So, and when you get through, you have the equivalent of 2 years of college. So I think that's really neat. I think we should adopt some facets of the European system. And, but our schools are such of a mess. How does Switzerland do school? Is it by province or is it by, um, does the entire Swiss government have the education, um, by canton? So is that like counties in the US? Little, so there's no centralized education, it's all mishmash. Because that's how it is here. Every county. Oh, okay. All right. So it's, um, I guess you'd call that provincial? Or, wow. So, yeah, Georgia has 159 counties. My state has more counties than any other state in the US, and we have 50 states. So ah, the states are subdivided into counties. So it's really, it should be regional or it should be by state. It should not be by county because if you move from one county in Georgia to another, you might be ahead or behind with your kids. So it's crazy. And it seems like the counties are always grabbing at the newest education theories, and so they'll start with one program and they end up deciding, oh, we don't want to do this program anymore, we'll do another one. And the programs are so different from generation to generation that parents complain they can't help kids with their homework because the subject is being taught in such a radically different way than when they were in school that they have no clue how to teach it the way the teacher wants it taught. And it's crazy. You have to have some solidarity to be able to teach the same thing to kids no matter what part of the country they're in. We do have federal standards, but there's too much leeway for every county to do its own thing. I think that they should decide on state standards at least and, you know, go from there because it's like they're experimenting on our kids all the time. It's crazy. So, yeah, I thought the European system was pretty good, but apparently they've got some of the same problems that we do. But I really think that requiring algebra for everybody just doesn't make any sense. And everybody struggles with it, and everybody learns to hate it because it's so different from anything that they're studying. I, yeah, I think Europe is more consistent. I compared notes a lot with my friend from the Netherlands, and she said that, of course, she was taught by nuns, and they were very harsh to her. They gave her so many emotional scars about algebra that she could not pass it here when she was going to school. And she almost didn't get her degree, and it was sad. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're going to go into later. But if you need it later, you can get it in college. You do not have to have it straight out of high school. And if you are studying it in college, it's going to vanish before you get to college. So, really, it's not worth it, I think, to put all that effort into making kids study algebra. It's different if they like math and they want to go into it, they should have the option to do it, but it should not be a requirement for graduation. If a person can do checkbook math and figure out interest, simple interest, then that is all they need to go forward in life. And, it might encourage kids more to go for college if they didn't have that obstacle to hold them back. And I don't think algebra should be required for everybody in college either. I think that if you need it for the degree you're getting, then yeah, you need to take it. But I don't think it should be required if you're not doing something scientific. If you are simply getting a degree in English, then you shouldn't have to take algebra. If you're getting a degree in history, you don't need algebra. So, there again, the core curriculum is good and you should be exposed to different things, but I don't think that we need as much exposure to algebra, calculus, and all that if if our career goal is not anything to do with that. And I know some people discover a love of a subject if they're exposed to it. So you should have enough of it to expose you to different aspects. But as far as having a whole course in it, I don't think so. I think they should have a general exploratory curriculum where you have little bits and pieces of different things so that you can see if you think. But the way it is now, I really don't see why, you know, everywhere. I don't see why we need to have such struggles. Life is stressful enough. I think that there should be more of the fun types of classes, the music, the art, the, sculpture, if somebody wants to go into that. Um, and you can have they already have art appreciation, music appreciation to give you a little taste of things. And they could have math appreciation, just enough to make sure that people know the general math types of things, but not so much that they have to be able to work quadratic equations if they're not going to be using them. Because it's so fleeting. If you don't use it, you lose it. And it doesn't make it easier to pick it up later. So, you know, I definitely think that we need to have exposure to higher subjects. But as far as in high school, in K through 12 in the US, or in um, general school in other countries, I think that it would be important to make the experience enjoyable. Because absolutely, you need the social outlet that school gives you. And if schools were more vigilant as far as stopping hate speech at the beginning, Don't let bullies do their thing. So, I was going to put this link here. So, I think I already did, though. Did I? Did I? I probably did. Let me see. Yeah, I put it in there. Okay. You've got good ideas, Myros. It definitely algebra has its place. If you're going to do anything along the sciences, then you probably will need algebra. But I think that for people who are studying the humanities and other things, art, music, then why should they have to take algebra if they're not going to use it? So, because if you want to figure out how many beans are in a jar, there are computer programs to do that. So, and kids know this. So, you know, it's like when I became a DJ at 15, I had to study a little booklet about this thick. And 2/3 of it was laws about broadcasting and um, power requirements for AM stations and FM stations and things like this. And then the third part of it was all physics. It was converting plate current to antenna current and back again, and things like maybe they used to have to do in the 40s, but this was the 70s. Anything that I needed to know in the radio station as far as the meters was in a chart on the wall. So I knew exactly how much to adjust the power so that it was right. Because at sunset, the power increases. So you have to lower the power on a station that's going to be operating at night. If it's a station that's a daytime station, you just have to close it down at local sunset. So everything was already figured out. I didn't do any calculations. And I didn't have to do any calculations, but yet to get my third class radio telephone operator permit with broadcast endorsement, I had to pass all three of these elements. And I did it at 15, which I was the second female student to do that in the history of Habersham County. So it was neat. And I was taking the test in there with all these college students from Georgia Tech. It was so funny. You know, there was one other girl, but she didn't pass. She was 17. And I felt so bad for her, and she didn't want to try it again. And I failed the part with the algebra and stuff the first time, but the second time I got it. And I was very motivated in my algebra class in ninth grade because I wanted to pass that test. But it really didn't help me with it because it was physics equations. It wasn't algebra. It wasn't the kind of algebra I was studying anyway. But, and later they did away with that requirement. So now, if you want to be a DJ in the United States, you sign an application for a license, you mail it into the FCC with your fee, and you get it in the mail. You do not have to take any exams, not even on the FCC rules and regulations. So qualifications change for occupations. So, you know, I really think that with all of the AIs that we have and all of the devices that can compute for us, um, certainly people in the technical fields do need algebra and they do use it despite the amount of memory in the calculator. So, yeah, I mean, algebra is useful and calculus is necessary for a lot of businesses to figure out things. So, definitely algebra and calculus and the whole shebang has its place. But I don't think it should be forced on every kid that goes through high school in the United States. And really, most kids have it in 8th grade. Then they have, no, they have algebra in pre-algebra in 7th, geometry in 8th, algebra in 9th, and algebra 2 in 10th. And then they have calculus, and it's like, why do they make every child sit through that stuff when 90% of them are not going to use it? So I think that schools should be reformed. And especially for kids with disabilities, I think that they should tailor all the classes for everybody, not just for the disabled. So that if a kid has an interest, like I did in German, it should have been a part of my schooling to get that course for me. You know, whatever a kid is interested in is what they should be studying. And yes, they need exposure to other subjects, but I don't think that we are really succeeding in schools these days in the United States. We have too much standardized testing. So, let me go on here and see if I can find something. So that's the EEPs. And what are the rights of a child with special needs? They have the right for a free and appropriate education. And what's the most common disability in education? Dyslexia, ADHD, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, and processing deficits. Okay. Let's have a look at this. Let me put that down here so I have room for more links. And the 5 most common learning disabilities. I had ADD and so did both of my daughters. I call it ADD instead of ADHD because we did not have a hyperactivity. We just had a lack of attention. So here's this link. And here we go. And there's all of that. So see, what's AACAP? Let's find out. American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. Oh, cool. Okay. All right, this is Know Your Rights. And this is from September 2016. I think I will include that in the link. Oh, no, I don't want that. Okay. Now, let's take that extra line out. Oh, okay. And I'll get the link. So let's see what they have to say about this. So for a child to be eligible for special education, they must have issues in one of the following categories. And you can request an evaluation. Oh, parents should request copies of their school district's Section 504 plan. Okay. And of course, this thing, it may be necessary to hire your own lawyer if you decide to appeal a school's decision. Most parents can't afford a lawyer, so let's see what what their programs are aiming towards. This mission is to support innovative initiatives in education and research that improve access to mental health treatments for all children. This is wonderful. I need to retweet some of their stuff. Okay. Summer medical student fellowships. That's cool. Righty. That is neat. Okay. That's for families. Let's see. That's cool. Neat. Wonderful. Wow. This is cool. This is a good resource. So let me put this here as well. Facts for families. That's the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. Okay. Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. Alrighty, there's the whole mouthful. And this resource is wonderful. Very good resource. Alrighty, bye. Bye, Myros. I'm sorry I missed you going. Okay. And let's see. So this is cool. Let's look at bullying. Let's see what they say about bullying. Because this has a bearing on just about every school in the nation. I'm going to put article on bullying. And add this to the chat. Alrighty. Let's see what the psychiatrists have to say. Bullying is a common experience for many children and adolescents. Surveys indicate that as many as half of all children are bullied at some time during their school years, and at least 10% are bullied on a regular basis. Wow. So let's get this. I want to copy this over. That backs up what I was saying. Bullying has even been reported in online chat rooms, through email, and on social networking sites. Children who are bullied have real suffering that can interfere with their social and emotional development. Some victims of bullying have even attempted suicide rather than continue to take it. Children and adolescents who bully thrive on controlling or dominating others. They have often been the victims of abuse. They may also be depressed, angry, or upset about events at school or at home. Children targeted by bullies also tend to fit a particular profile. Bullies often choose children who are passive, easily intimidated, or have few friends. Victims may also be smaller or younger, struggle with self-esteem, have depression or anxiety, and have a harder time defending themselves. If you suspect your child is bullying others, it's important to seek help for him or her as soon as possible. Without intervention, bullying can lead to serious academic, social, emotional, and legal difficulties. Talk to your child's pediatrician, teacher, principal, school counselor, or family physician. If the bullying continues, a comprehensive evaluation by a child and adolescent psychologist or other mental health professional should be arranged. The evaluation can help you and your child understand what is causing the bullying and help you develop a plan to stop the destructive behavior. If you suspect your child may be the victim of bullying, ask him or her to tell you what's going on. You can help by providing lots of opportunities to talk with you in an open and honest way. So I'm going to copy more of this. And here's the bullet points. I'm going to get those. Because really, bullying is a huge problem. Most bullying occurs on playgrounds, in lunchrooms, bathrooms, on school buses, or in unsupervised halls. Ask the school administrators to find out about programs other schools and communities have used to help combat bullying, such as peer mediation, conflict resolution, and anger management training, and increased adult supervision. Don't encourage your child to fight back. Instead, suggest that he or she try walking away to avoid the bully, or that they seek help from a teacher, coach, or other adult. Help your child practice what to say to the bully. Help your child practice being assertive. Encourage your child to be with friends when traveling back and forth to school, during shopping trips, or on other outings. Bullies are less likely to pick on a child in a group. Okay, so here's practical suggestions. Okay, good. Now I will better know what to say when I'm with someone who's being bullied. Cool. This is really cool. And here's the stuff. So I'll also put that on there, where I got it from. Okay. And it's this year's information. That's good. Right. Ready? So here is just have that excerpt from it. There we go. So now we know a little more about bullying and why it's important that the bully gets some help. Because it's a sign that the bully needs help and the victim needs help too. This is why I think that there should be access to a clinical therapist at school, and there are online services that provide that. So it should be a requirement in every school that they have that resource available. So, yeah. Alrighty, let's continue. So back to the subject of special needs kids at school. Let's see if we can find, let's see. Let's look at chronic illness in children. The child who is diagnosed with a serious and chronic medical illness is at greater risk for developing emotional problems. And that goes without saying, but it's nice to have a little confirmation. And I'll put the link right here to this article. This is just a wealth of information. Okay, so I will put this in the chat. Alrighty. Okay, let's take a closer look at this. The young child, unable to understand why the sickness occurred, may assume it is a punishment for being bad. That's sad. He or she may become angry with parents and doctors for not being able to cure the illness. And they may resent being treated differently and being different from other healthy children. Parents can best help by providing age-appropriate information about it and the importance of compliance to treatments. So I'm gonna copy that over to here too. Okay. So a teenager with a long-term illness may feel pulled in opposite directions. But he or she has to be dependent on parents and doctors, but wants to become independent. And chronic illness entails frequent physician visits and medical leaves, and the lack of continuity in school attendance may cause problems. And that can increase the child's loneliness and feeling of being different from other youngsters. So, if isolated or overprotected, the child may not learn to socialize or may have difficulty separating from parents when it's time to be involved in school or other activities. So here's a list of suggestions, and I'm gonna put that over here too. Help your child to be in contact with others who have successfully adjusted to living with chronic illness. Um, in their prolonged periods of hospitalization and/or rest at home, children may develop excellence in a hobby or a special talent. Help your child learn as much about their illness as possible. Such activities are emotionally healthy and should be encouraged. And a psychiatrist can help families and their children understand the impact on the family of coping with multiple life changes imposed by the illness and develop emotionally healthy ways of living with the disease and its effects. So I'm going to include that part also. Okay. Okay. So that's general help for chronic illness. And let's see, let's go back. This is really cool. Let me look through here and see if there is. Has a lot of good topics. So let's see, what should we focus on next? Let's look at talking to kids about mental illnesses. So let me get okay. All right, let me get the link and put it in the chat. Okay. All right, talking to kids about mental illnesses. Kids are naturally curious and have questions about mental illness. Understanding mental illness, however, can be challenging for adults as well as children. So, during the past several decades, great advances have been made in different areas of diagnosis and treatment of mental illnesses. Parents can help children understand that these are real illnesses that can be treated. When parents talk with a child about mental illness, it helps if they are knowledgeable and reasonably comfortable with the subject. Parents should have a basic understanding and answers to questions such as what are they, who can get them, and what causes them if it's known, how diagnoses are made, and what treatments are available. Some parents may have to do a little homework to be better informed. And this website is an excellent place to start. In their Facts for Families section, which this came from. It might be helpful to make a comparison to a physical illness. Many people get sick with a cold or the flu, but only a few get really sick with something serious like pneumonia. People who have a cold are usually able to do their normal activities, but if they get pneumonia, they'll have to take medicine and may have to go to the hospital. Feelings of sadness, anxiety, worry, irritability, or sleep problems are common for most people. But when these feelings get very strong, last for a long period of time, and begin to interfere with school, work, and relationships, it may be a sign of mental illness that requires treatment. Parents should be aware of the child's needs, concerns, knowledge, and experience with mental illnesses. When talking about mental illnesses, here are the bullet points, and I will copy this over here. Okay. All right, so you should be straightforward about it. Communicate at a level appropriate to a child's age and development level. Have the discussion when the child feels safe and comfortable. Watch your child's reaction during the discussion. Slow down or back up if the child becomes confused or looks upset. And for preschool-age children, young children often need less information and fewer details because of their more limited ability to understand. So preschool children focus primarily on things that they can see. They may have questions about a person who has an unusual physical appearance or who is behaving strangely. They would also be very aware of people who are crying and obviously upset or who are yelling and angry. School-age children. Older children may want more specifics. They may ask more questions, especially about friends or family with emotional or behavioral problems. Their concerns and questions are usually very straightforward, such as, why is that person crying? Why does Daddy drink and get so mad? Why is that person talking to herself? They may worry about their safety or the safety of their family and friends. It's important to answer their questions directly and honestly and to reassure them about their concerns and feelings. Teenagers are generally capable of handling much more information and asking more specific and difficult questions. Teenagers often talk more openly with their friends and peers than with their parents. As a result, some teens may already have misinformation about mental illnesses. Teenagers respond more positively to an open dialogue which includes give and take. They are not as open or responsive when a conversation feels one-sided and like a lecture. Talking to children about mental illness can be an opportunity for parents to provide their children with information, support, and guidance. Learning about mental illnesses can lead to improved recognition, earlier treatment, greater understanding and compassion, and decreased stigma, particularly if the child and their family is part of a culture where talking about um, this doesn't make sense. I think they meant to say if the child and their family is not part of a culture where talking about mental illness is considered taboo. So, and there are a nice list of sources. So, definitely very, very good. And I'm gonna, let's see. Take that part. And I'll get the sources. Very good source list. Okay. Very good. Alrighty. This would be good to add to my help list. Okay. So let's look at I need to separate my fact list from the other stuff. My links. Yeah. I'll just separate that from the rest. And very good information. All right, so anybody have any questions or comments? And if not, I'll just keep on. So let's look at another source. So we've covered physical illness and mental illness, and let's see if we can find something about well, here's an article on transgender and gender diverse youth. Let's have a look at that. Okay. And I'll put this over here. Let me get the link to this article. It there. And copy just the link up. Okay. So let's see if anybody's got any comments. I don't see any. So I was going to put this link because I think it's important to understand about transgender issues too. So let's look at this. As children grow up, they develop a sense of who they are. This sense is sometimes called their identity. Gender is an important part of identity. Gender identity refers to an internal sense of being male, female, combination of both, or neither. Gender identity, yeah, gender identity is different from sex anatomy, also called someone's sexual body parts, and is different from sexual orientation, which refers to sexual or romantic attraction. Gender expression refers to how a person displays their gender, for example, through play, dress pronoun use, and the name they use. Assigned gender is the gender that was originally on a child's birth certificate. Affirmed gender is the gender by which one wishes to be known. Starting around age 2, children begin to think about and express their gender. Some of a child's behavior and interest may match traditional gender roles and some may not. For example, a boy may be more interested in traditionally female activities like playing with princess dolls, or a girl may be more interested in traditionally male activities like playing with trucks. These examples do not mean the child has a gender identity different from their assigned gender. Exploration of different gender expressions is a common part of development. Having a child whose affirmed gender identity differs from the gender on their birth certificate can be confusing for families. Parents may not understand why their child's behavior and interests differ from their siblings or peers. Parents may worry about their child's future or what friends or relatives will think or say. Children and adolescents may also have trouble asking questions or expressing their feelings. When a child's gender identity consistently differs from their assigned gender, it may cause them a great deal of sadness and distress. This is referred to as gender dysphoria. It can be very helpful to try to understand how your child describes their gender identity. Some terms that describe gender variations include gender diversity, expansiveness, creativity, or nonconformity, referring to behaviors and appearances that don't match a society's traditional ideas about gender. Transgender, meaning that a person consistently identifies with a different gender than their gender assigned at birth. Gender neutral, gender queer, gender fluid, and agender, describing other gender variations. Research suggests that accepting a child's affirmed gender identity and expression can decrease the risk of future psychiatric problems such as depression, anxiety, and suicidal behavior. There are many ways a parent can do this. By talking about gender with your child in an open and understanding way. Use the name and gender pronouns your child prefers. Allow your child to play with toys and dress in clothes they choose. Stand up for your child if you notice other people acting disrespectfully. Help your child prepare for teasing or bullying, including identifying trusted adults. Learn about school policies and laws that address gender issues. Advocate for changing them if they negatively impact your child. Help your child make decisions about telling others about their gender identity. Connect with other parents raising gender diverse or transgender children. Seek out guidance early on from medical and mental health professionals who have experience with these issues. Sometimes children take steps to transition from their assigned gender to their affirmed gender. This is called transitioning. Social transitioning refers to a change of gender roles, expressions, name, and pronouns. Medical transitioning refers to the use of medication to help their body better match their gender identity. Medications can pause some of the physical changes that happen with puberty. Surgical transitioning refers to the use of surgery to match one's body and gender identity. Surgery is not an option until late adolescence and adulthood. If transitioning is something your child is wondering about, you can explore options with a medical professional who is knowledgeable in this area. These treatments are different from conversion therapy, which attempts to force gender identity to match assigned gender. Conversion therapy is not based on evidence and is harmful to the child and their relationship with their parents. Raising a gender diverse or transgender child can lead to many questions and concerns. Consult with your primary doctor, who may recommend speaking to a qualified mental health professional or another expert in the field. With patience and support, both children and parents can adjust, improve understanding of each other's concerns, and lead a happy and productive life. Most importantly, reassure your child they will always have your love and support. So important because a lot of times maybe one parent doesn't accept the needs of the child to be referred to as a different gender than they were born assigned at birth. So it's important for parents to be flexible and allow their child to express the gender that they feel that they identify with. Um, as one of my young friends says, it's not a choice. When I was speaking of choice, I was speaking of as far as choosing to believe the evaluations of professionals, but as far as your gender, let me use the right term. As far as gender dysphoria and the affirmed gender of the person, it's important to recognize that if a person once identified as male and now prefers to be female or vice versa, it's important to listen to them and to use the terms they are comfortable with. And it's very important to have professionals in your child's life who have experience with gender dysphoria and don't have preconceived notions about what should be, because, as it said right here, conversion therapy is not helpful. Where is it? Conversion therapy is not based on evidence and is harmful to the child and their relationship with their parents. So it's not up to the parents to say, well, you were born a boy, you should be a boy, because if the person is suffering from gender dysphoria and feels feminine, then they shouldn't have to force themselves to act male just because one parent disagrees with that decision or feels threatened by it. So it can be a very difficult time for a family when a child um, reveals that they really don't feel their assigned sex at birth. And everybody needs to communicate and love each other and just work through it. There's going to be some grief on the part of the parents that, all your life all the child's life you thought that they were one sex, and now you have to change and refer to them as the other sex. But if you look back, you probably can think of things that clued you in that this was happening. And I've talked to parents of gay children who said that they knew from about age 5, and that age is going to vary from person to person, but they knew that their child was different. And pretty much parents know their children. And so it can be scary to change. We as humans do not like change. But really, if this is an issue in your family, you need to sit down with your kids and listen to them, because it's important that they are allowed to express the gender that they feel internally. Um, that, up here, because the mind and the body are connected. It's not a thing that they can just ignore and say, the definition of gender dysphoria is that they are having distress, and that distress is real. So, we want them to be happy and well adjusted. So we need to allow them to express their individuality and not force them down a road that they really can't see themselves following. So, and transgender and gender diverse youth are going to have more problems in school with bullying, I think, because generally any members of the LGBTQ plus community have problems in school from persecution. Nobody should be bullied and nobody should be persecuted. And maybe even well-meaning teachers and administrators don't deal with transgender issues very well, because to them it's a new thing. It's not new, but you know, uh, there are more divisions nowadays between just generally people in the United States. We're divided along party lines. We are divided along difference lines. And you see that every day. So we need to have more conversation and be more open to accepting difference, because when we have immigrants living next door, that's a difference. Difference is not bad. It doesn't mean they have evil intentions. We need to quit distrusting each other so much. We need to come together and love each other. And any difference in school is going to bring a lot of persecution these days. Immigrants, I'm sure, are going through more problems. I've read about attacks on Chinese Americans because of COVID starting in China, whether it originated there or not. And some scientists feel that maybe it didn't originate there, but it was in the country when it started multiplying and people started getting really sick. So that's why the World Health Organization stopped referring to strains of COVID from what country they originated from, because it's very hard to trace origins of viruses, especially viruses that transmit so heavily, like Delta variant. So I'm glad they started using Greek letters instead of countries. We need to not blame the people of the countries that these variants come from. We need to all work together as a world to solve this problem. The pandemic is an international problem. It is not a United States problem. And the fact that the United States is handling it so poorly does not earn us brownie points with the rest of the world either. We need to quit being so selfish and just think about the consequences of not wearing masks and not getting vaccinated. It is sentencing some people that you will expose yourself to death. And that's not a very Christian way to act. We are a majority Christian nation. We have people of many other good religions and faiths here. But, I'm more familiar with the Christian religion because I am a Christian. And I've compared notes with Muslims I've known and with Jewish people that I've known, and it seems that all religions tend to believe in one God. Not all religions. There are some that still believe in plural gods, but I'm talking about there's a common ground in just about any religion about being good people, being kind to others, and thinking about the welfare of groups rather than just yourself. And wearing a mask is such a simple thing, and it lives. You are 80% less likely to transmit any disease you might be carrying because there are things out there besides COVID. There's HSV that makes little children sick. There's influenza, which makes everybody sick. And there are colds and other viruses. And any one of those other viruses could cause a pregnant lady to miscarry. I was told after a couple of my miscarriages that it might have been a simple virus that I caught that killed my baby. So, if we think about it in an apolitical way, just from a public health standpoint, masks do work to contain some of your illness from going to other people. And a lot of times you are contagious 2 or 3 days before you have the first symptom. So it's not just COVID that you can pass without having symptoms. You can also pass other diseases. So, for the health of all, you don't know from looking who might have lung problems, who might catch a simple cold and end up dying of pneumonia. Because pneumonia is a complication of just about every virus and just about every cold. So, I wish we would quit being selfish and wear masks because it's so important to protect other people and to think about other people besides ourselves. We're not enemies here. We're all in this country together, whether we are citizens or not, whether we are born here or not. We are in the same boat. We are living in this country, in the borders. We are working and having contact with people every day. And just a simple strip of cloth over your face. Yes, it might affect very young children as far as seeing faces and all, but they're going to see their parents with their mask off, and the vast majority of what a kid learns is from looking at his parents' face. So it's not going to make that much of an impact for this short period of time. What we need to be worried about is if that child survives to adulthood. And we can't tell without them being infected with COVID whether COVID will kill that particular child or not. Most children will have it and get over it just fine, but there are some that end up in the hospital on a ventilator. Do you really want to take the risk that one person you infect of many might end up in the hospital and die, and that death would be on you? It is much better to wear the mask and not get so huffy about your individual rights, because where public health is concerned, it is health of the many that is the concern. We want to protect everybody, and the only way we can protect everybody is if everybody wears a mask who can. And if you have a medical reason for not wanting to wear a mask, then you should have no guilt, because if you are that short of breath, then yeah, you need not to wear a mask. If a doctor's telling you not to wear a mask, or you could, you know, your oxygen might be too low, then yeah, you shouldn't wear it. But the vast majority of us can wear a mask and not suffer any, you know. I have asthma. You think I would be comfortable wearing a mask if it was that restrictive on my breathing? You know, it's so simple to wear a mask, and it is so simple to get a vaccination. Vaccinations have been used for over 300 years to protect us from disease. And if you're worried about somebody injecting you with a microchip, ask a vet sometime when you have your fur child in for shots. Ask a vet how big the needle needs to be to inject a microchip in your pet, because it's a big needle. It is not the size of these little needles that they use for the vaccine. So you don't have to worry about a microchip being implanted in you. This would be highly illegal, first of all, and second of all, you would know if they were taking that big a needle out. It's obviously bigger than the needles they use for the vaccine. The one they gave me both times had a very small needle. It was about the average size of any vaccination I've ever gotten in my life. So I do not believe that anybody was injecting me with a microchip. And even if they injected me with a microchip, it would have to be, you know, when you inject a pet with a microchip, it has a 6-digit number on it. That is all the information that is carried on that microchip, is a 6-digit number. Unless I go into a database and put that 6-digit number and my pet's name and my pet's information, without that information in the database, the chip is useless. It's a piece of plastic. So we are afraid of technology that we don't understand. But microchip technology has been around for a good long time. I've been having microchips put in my pets for 25 years, and it hasn't hurt any of them. So, it's a little bit of insurance if one of my pets gets lost. It didn't help Andre because nobody turned him into a vet, but um, you know, it is just a little bit of insurance, and usually that microchip is put somewhere in the back of the neck area. There's a lot, there's a space there, sort of between the shoulder blades. It has to be put in pretty deep. But then they can take the barcode scanner and scan it, and it gives that 6-digit number. That's the only information that the barcode reader gets from that microchip. So people are afraid of microchips if they haven't had any experience with them, but you know, um, every time they put a microchip in a pet, it only costs like $25. Then they scan the pet with the barcode reader to see if the chip was put in a good place. And those chips can migrate. So it's possible that, if your pet's microchip migrates, then it might not be readable. So every time I take them in for their yearly exams, the microchip is checked to make sure it's still in the right place. So, just if you're petting your pet and you find the microchip, and if you're messing with it, you can push it out of position. So you are careful not to do that if if your vet remembered to tell you. But I wish people weren't so afraid of the vaccine. I'm not trying to vilify people who are afraid of the vaccine because, some people have very good reasons why they are afraid of the vaccine. But it's been given to millions upon millions of people, and nobody has really had any long-term side effects from it. Um, I'm aware of one person in my circle of friends who knows somebody who got paralyzed from the vaccine, but I'm wondering if maybe they got vaccinated and then they got COVID, not because of the vaccine, but because they were already exposed to it, and it takes 6 weeks to get your immunity up so that you're protected against COVID. So if you get the shot, and then you're exposed to COVID, you don't get that immunity immediately. So some of these cases that people are talking about might be from getting COVID, not from being a little sick from the vaccine. Because you don't get COVID from the vaccine. You get the spike protein, which is where the virus latches onto the cell, and it teaches your body to respond to that spike protein. So if you get a little sick, that's just meaning that your body's immune response is cranking up, and it's a little uncomfortable for a couple of days or so, but it nobody goes to the hospital from that. You may have a sore arm for a few days, but nobody goes to the hospital from that. So I can speak from my experience of having had the vaccine twice. I need to go in for my booster, but it won't be due until probably December. They may move it up from 8 months, but my 8 months is expired in December. But, and I don't have any conditions that compromise my immune system enough that I would need to go in sooner, but we may, the information about COVID is ever changing because we're learning new things about this virus. So, if they tell me that I need to go in before 8 months, I'll go in before 8 months. But we have to remember that COVID is still new. We don't know an awful lot about it. We're learning more all the time. But we're in the very early stages of understanding this virus and being able to fight it. So, we have the vaccine. The vaccine works. People don't usually end up in the emergency room if they have had both shots. And there are some breakthrough cases, but it doesn't mean the vaccine is not working. It just means that maybe it's been a while since you had the vaccine and maybe your antibodies aren't as numerous as they should be. But, the vaccine works, folks. And I know you don't know me from Adam, and, it's hard for me to have any authority to say to you that, you really should protect yourself and your family and go get the vaccine. But I hope you will. I hope you'll read up on it and come to a decision soon because once you get the shot, it's 6 weeks before you get the immunity. You want to be ready. There's another nasty variant that may turn out to be a problem. We don't know yet, but that C.1.2 variant is very concerning, and it may turn out to be our next Delta. So we need to get protected now for the sake of our little ones. It makes me very sad to hear that there are so many children in the hospitals that there's no room for people with heart attacks. There's no room for um, more people that have COVID. There's no room for people from car accidents. I mean, this is a nationwide crisis. So I'm hoping that more of us get the vaccine so maybe we'll get rid of COVID once and for all before the next pandemic comes. So until then, I wish you well. I hope that our little exploration into public schools in the US was helpful and interesting to you. And I want to hear more about schools in other countries. So if you have thoughts about your own country, let's talk about it. And any thoughts you have about disability, I would like to hear them. So please do. Um, you can contact me on any of my social medias, but the quickest way for me to see it, of course, is here on the Twitch chat, or you can text my phone number that I've got on the chat. So let me put this on here. So there's my text number. So let me know what you think, and you can also sign up on my Discord, and anything you put in there I can see. So hopefully we will connect, and until tomorrow night, don't let the disabilities get you down. Enjoy what you can do. And we'll be talking about disabilities again. And I saw some old friends tonight. I'm glad to see y'all. Let's see who's on right now before I go. Alex Laxo, another TT viewer, and Jane M. good to see y'all, and hope you will come and visit me at Granny's house again. Until we meet again, this is Dennis Cole, GrannyHandicap, saying have a good night and take care of yourself till tomorrow, and we'll talk more about disabilities. Bye for now. I'm going to put it on my goodbye scene. And y'all take care. Good night.